I'd like to discuss muscle memory. Muscle memory is any action that has been taken to so many times and is well practiced that you can engage that action without actually thinking about it. A good example is when, if you have a sibling, and your sibling gets used, you fight with your sibling and they do this at your face, they look like they're going to hit you in the face and you immediately block. You didn't think about it, it just happened. You're used to someone doing something so much that you automatically defend or block yourself. It's very common, it's a human nature thing. It's essentially how your body learns how to survive. You as a human, as an animal, you have a tendency to remember the bad moments because the bad moments are, it used to be like when an animal's trying to kill you, you're being hunted, you're in a fight for survival moment. So those memories get etched into your memory, your body. So the next time you see or hear something, your muscles are already working to prep for that. It's almost like your body knows what's going to happen, and that's true. It's very much true. Your body says, your eyes see it and sends back to your brain. Brain's like, this is going to happen. I know it. Let's not get hit again, and let's try to fix it. So the concept of muscle memory in terms of combat is very, very important because the difference between life or death is being able to usually outthink and outspeed your opponent. If you can hit them faster than they can hit you, is what it boils down to. And that doesn't mean like you have to be Speedy Gonzalez, but you just have to hit them before they hit you. As a result, muscle memory is ideal for learning how to block, learning how to counter, and learning how to attack. And here's the trick that I rarely hear spoken about. When you're in an active combat situation, and I'm using my experience from Antguard and Dagger here. Dagger here being a full contact foam fighting sport, which uses essentially camp mat on PVC and better materials, fiberglass rods. So you're actually out there hitting each other for a good bit, but the idea is still relevant. In a combat situation, the more you have to think, the less situationally aware you are. If I have to think, I have to swing this way, I have to go this way, I have to duck, you're focusing on what you have to do. You focus less on what they have to do. So the concept of muscle memory is designed, our understanding of it revolves around being able to use it to our advantage. In many dojos, martial arts movies, in real life, in the military, you practice the same maneuvers, the same techniques over and over and over and over again. Yes, it gets boring. Trust me, it gets boring. After you've thrown that same punch 1,000 times, you don't want to throw it another 1,000 times. But you've just thrown that punch 1,000 times. Well, yeah, I can throw that punch in my sleep, and that's the point. To be able to throw that punch in your sleep. Because while you're fighting, you're not supposed to be focusing on your punch. You're supposed to be thinking, where's his next opening? What can I do to go there? You're releasing your body and your mind. Your body's doing what it's supposed to. It's kind of like meditation. You're taking a back seat, and your body will will fix itself. But first you have to actually train and drill that in. Muscle memory takes constant repetition, constant technique, constant refinement. Because if you start training in a bad way, for instance, whenever I go back out to fighting, I have a bad habit of dipping my left shoulder when I throw. I have a bad habit of dipping my shoulders when I'm throwing single sword shots. If I do that and I have a bad habit, I'm exposing all this when my enemy, he has the exact same equipment I do. All he has to do is go pop. However, because I've developed bad muscle memory, I will constantly leave this open and they know how to defeat me easily. So what I want to impart is, in regards to muscle memory, it is one of the most important functions we can have. When you're going through these motions, we're learning lightsaber techniques, you're learning martial arts, you're learning all these different things, and even mentally speaking, when we're verbally debating each other, The idea is to get so used to something that you no longer have to think about it, because then it becomes it looks like a flow. The best way we can see this is we watch football players, NBA stars, we watch all these people who are just, they make it look like they're just walking on air. They're easy. This is easy. They make it look so simple and fluid. Thing is they're not focusing on what they're doing. They're just doing it. And that's part of training. That free throw that they have thrown hundreds of thousands of free throws to get to that point where they know how to throw. But they do all this training where it's not, in a match. They do it when it's not important, so when it is important, they can do it. In fact, what happens when you choke, as the phrase is, when you choke, is when you are so used to doing something and then you try to think about it. So that NBA player who's thrown 100,000 free throws, if he thinks about throwing a free throw, he's not used to thinking about it. That's why you have people chanting to try and disrupt his thought and all that, and try to push him back in, because if he thinks about it, his brain now is fighting his body, they're not in sync. And then he chokes and he misses something that he has made 100,000 times in the past, because he did not listen to his muscle memory. So muscle memory is insanely important, because the more muscle memory you have, the more you can fight and let your mind be free to think, oh, this guy's really good at the defense, I need to do this. This guy's really good at the offense, I need to do this. I'm fighting this guy, but I have 3 other dudes coming up behind me. Or, in a verbal debate, you're able to sit there and recognize when you're debating what techniques you're using, and how your flow is going, because sometimes we get really wrapped up in our emotions and it just goes. And having that muscle memory, that mental resilience, will help keep you on track. Now, but for combat, just for combat, practice, practice, practice. They say practice makes perfect. Practicing perfectly results in perfection. But the most absolute important thing is getting that muscle memory. Throw those shots 100 times a day if you want. 1,000 times. In a month, say I'm going to do this exercise 6,000. Whatever number you choose, just know you have to keep doing it. And practice. And make sure your technique is good. And continually do it, because it may not feel like you're doing anything. You won't notice the results until a month or 2 down the line. You won't notice you're doing it until you're actually doing it, because it's almost a prepping technique to allow yourself to get to that battle meditation, that battle focus, where you're able to just hit you're able to actually do these techniques without thinking about them. In martial arts, you form katas, where it's almost a meditative dance, where you just do it and it goes and it flows so well. But that comes from hours and hours and hours of practicing the same techniques over and over again until they were sick of them. When I go out there to the fighting field, with my swords and shields and all this other stuff, and I go out and hit people, I'm not focusing on my swings. I'm focusing on how I'm going to win, as opposed to what I'm doing. And I focus on the next step on 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps ahead of my enemy, to try and beat him with my mind. Because my body knows what it's doing. I've been doing this for 10 years. It knows what it's doing. I'm throwing the same shots that I have thrown countless times. I just need to shut my brain up and say, hey, body's got this, do it. The brain needs to focus. And by separating the two, entering that meditative state allows you the ability to focus on what the eventual outcome you want is. Because sometimes we have to be able to disengage and say, hey, this is not a winning fight. This is not how we want to win. So that's really why muscle memory is important. It allows you to pull off techniques and manage yourself on the field in such a way that it's easy and flawless. Because you don't want to be caught thinking about what you need to do next in the middle of a fight, or if you're going through a duel, you don't want to be thinking about what you're doing next, because you might accidentally hurt someone because you thought the wrong thing. Your body can pick up the minute movements of your enemy and respond to them without you realizing it when you're trained into that muscle memory. Like, I might think someone's my brain says this dude's ducking left, when in reality my brain says, oh no, he's ducking right. If I swing for him going left, I might crack him in the face on accident because I think his shoulder is going to be there. You need to have the muscle memory because your body, your natural instincts are better able to handle that section. So when we go into combat arts, when you're doing the various forms, you're practicing the various martial arts that people are bringing forth, anything along these lines, you need to practice even the simplest things. Even today, after 10 years plus of fighting, I still practice the exact same techniques, the exact same kinds of swings that I did on day one, because those are what carry you through the day. It's not all flippy floppy weird stuff that these combos. It's literally fighting with the same basic techniques until I can pull out a neat trick, and that neat trick is what ends the day. But what carries the day are your basic techniques. So I implore you, as you focus on learning these new techniques, if you do lesson 1 for like Shicho, you do the lessons in that one. When you move on to your next lesson, do this lesson, then this lesson. When we move on to the next step, you do this lesson, this lesson, this lesson. And as you develop, you should be doing each sequential lesson and practicing and reviving your technique and keeping it fresh and making sure you don't forget it. Because if your body forgets it, when you start trying to do choreography, when you try to do actual dueling, if you try to do any sort of like even teaching, the reason why a teacher for many different martial arts makes it look easy, because it is easy for him. He's done it. It's natural to him. It's second nature. So please, I implore you, as you look at the martial forms that we're going to be producing, please practice, 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 and practice with the intent that this is what your body is going to be doing whenever you pick up a weapon or get into a stance, because that's what you're going to end up doing. So if you practice bad, you're going to perform bad. Practice well, execute well. Thank you.